Hi, everybody. Welcome to One Tough Podcast. Like always, we're here with my man, the producer, Carlo. And today we have somebody that I'm really excited to have on the show. Very famous comic that I really, really like. Joey Diaz. You might have seen him on Netflix. One of the most interesting guys in the world with one of the most interesting lives. And we're about to talk to you. Thanks for joining us. So you weren't even born in the United States? You were born in
No,
Cuba?
I was born in Cuba.
You know, I was there. I went there with Shelley the Tailor about 20 years ago.
Jesus.
We wanted to go to Cuba. You weren't allowed to go there. So at that time I was doing real good. I had my own jet and shit. So we flew into Jamaica, and then we flew into Cuba. Valdado. The sand was as white as
Beautiful.
paper. Beautiful. So when we get off there, so Shelley the Tailor, dear friend of mine, he was in the suit business. I used to call him Shelley the Tailor. So what happens is we get off the plane. The guys had fucking machine guns going on, right? And all that. I said, what the hell is this? So I didn't know what Shelley did. So I grabbed his bag by mistake. All of a sudden, they opened the baggage up. He had lingerie in there and shit. And I said like this, I'm looking at the guy. He put it in there for the girls, right? He thought he was in World War II. The guy's holding up and he's going, fagaloon, like that. I said, no, he fagaloon. Make a long story short, he brought these things, because over there it was really bad. Cuban people are wonderful people, man. And I was right in the midst of, we went to Havana, we went all over the place. And poverty, you had the most beautiful woman who were doctors, lawyers, making nothing, and they're all hookers because they couldn't make it men's ends bed. I really felt sorry for them. I banged about 10 of them when I was over there, and I tell you what, beautiful. One time we were on the beach, and I saw this beautiful gal there. She brought me back to our hut. It was a hut. And a guy was mixing concrete outside. It was our old man. I didn't know. So she brings me inside the hut. They had a 55-gallon drum and a half. She's washing my dick off. So the next thing is I look at it. Now she goes like this, come on. And the guy's shoveling concrete out there. So as I was banging, I'm looking over my shoulder. I figured the old man's going to hit me with a freaking shovel, right? But Cuba was so nice. Carlo, you see, you don't even know how international I am. Another one, so we go over to, what was that name of that family that was very rich who had the property over there? They had a golf course in there, and then when Fidel came in, they threw him out. What was the name?
Cuban family or
No, it was an American family, very, very wealthy.
not the fucking Bacardis?
No, another name. And Shelley and I, we went there, and they took over the place. So we're at the restaurant there, and I go to, I want to see the maitre d'. I says, my name is so-and-so, and this is so. We're the attorneys for these people who own the place. We want our fucking restaurant back. The guy's there. Make a long story short, Shelley was so afraid because the people on the street were so poor. They were holding chickens out there. And when we went around Cuba, the people were so nice, and they were so oppressed with this scumbag Fidel Castro. He ruined such a great people. And, you were born there, so I have a lot of respect for Cuban people. And they should have slit his throat a long time ago. And his brother Raul, they should have hung them from rafters. Because these people are good, smart, intelligent people in Cuba. Yeah.
A lot of heart.
A lot of hard, good people.
And the pre-revolutionary ones are fucking tough.
Yeah.
They're tough, man. I give them a lot of respect.
But they went through so much, and now all of a sudden we closed it up again. The Trump closed it up again. But I feel sorry for the people over there, and it was magnificent. We went to. Have you been back?
No.
So I went to San Juan, Old San Juan, and there was a place. I loved the pork, the Cuban pork with the rice and the beans. And we went to this place where Abbott and Costello used to stay in the place and eat there. And I'll never forget. It was great food. But people, that's what I think about is the people. Wonderful people in Cuba, and I relate to that. And I'll think of the name of that rich family while we're talking. So then you popped over and you moved over to East Harlem?
88th Street, 205 West 88th Street. I went to PS 166.
That's Yorkville.
Right there, man. Right there off
Upper
of
West
Broadway.
Side.
Upper West Side.
Oh, West Side. I'm thinking about East Yorkville on the East Side. That's all fucking liberals over there.
This was 1967.
Really?
It was still, knock around people.
Oh, they were good people. Now it's all,
PAL was on the corner.
it's all now penis licking liberals.
Right. No, I went there yesterday. I saw the Whole Foods on the corner. That corner was very special on 88th because the guy from Dark Shadows at the time
Oh, I remember that guy.
owned that fucking photography place.
Wow.
So he would shoot Dark Shadows
Wow.
and then go to the photography place. And we'd sit out there, not Barnabas Collins, but one of the other fucking
Barnabas
guys.
Collins, you don't remember that.
You don't know this shit. This is when ABC.
You don't remember Zachary either. Zachary.
Zachary would do the horror movies late night.
He was on WPX Channel 11, Zach, and he had gas pipe in the bag. Remember gas pipe?
God.
Yeah, come on. You're a little younger than me, but you remember these
I remember
things.
a lot of this shit.
Yeah, so how was it growing up over there?
205 West 88th, I was still lost. My father had just died. My father died 3 weeks after we got here from Cuba.
Yeah.
So I was a little fucked up. And then I played hooky and I got hit in the head with a lunchbox in Central Park. And that brought me back a little bit. And then I had a godmother on 148th and Broadway. She owned those 3 buildings.
Now, your father and mother, what's their origin?
Cuban.
Both of them.
Both of them, straight up, Camagüey and Havana. Uh-huh. And they were here, they would bounce.
Were they here pre-revolution?
Pre-revolution, they would bounce back and forth. My mother, when she was 14, went to a dance with her sister and lost the sister. And she went outside and the sister was getting raped. So she broke a bottle and killed the guy.
Wow.
So they snuck her over here when she was 14 or 15. Mm-hmm. She went to the Bronx and she started running numbers with a Puerto Rican girl. And her and the Puerto Rican girl opened up their own bank.
Yeah.
And then my mother went back with the Puerto Rican girl's ID to Cuba, had me, had my sister,
Yeah.
and then came back
Wow.
with that alias.
Wow.
So she opened up a bar under that alias. We had a bar on 137th and Audubon, black neighborhood, 127th.
127 Audubon.
Audubon. It was
Yeah,
a numbers
black,
little
yeah.
joint. And then we had the bank on 118th and 3rd
He came over to my East
by La
home.
Maqueta.
La Maqueta.
La
You know what
Maqueta.
that was?
I love La Marqueta.
What do you know
Underneath
about
the
that?
train thing? There's all the stuff.
Yeah,
there.
but what was underneath the train things where they had the live chickens,
Yeah.
they had produce.
They still have it.
They still have it.
Is it still going on
I
there?
heard it's still a little small, a smaller
Yeah, because
venue.
you used to go all along there from 116th Street all the way down to 103rd Street too, I think. Went far.
We had the numbers in the Bronx on Tremont Avenue, dry cleaners, quality cleaners.
Yeah.
And then she sold everything, and we just kept the bar in Union City, which is the second biggest Cuban population in the country.
It's where?
Union City, right over the
Jersey.
right Hoboken.
Yeah.
Union City is the second biggest Cuban population.
Yeah.
And my father was the first Cuban committee man of Union City, and he died, and they covered it up and sent him back to fucking Cuba.
How old were you when your dad died?
3,
3, and mom?
16,
Mom lived till you were 16.
16.
Right, and then who were you actually living with?
I moved in with an Italian family from the neighborhood. The neighborhood.
East Harlem now?
No, I'm in North Bergen, New Jersey now.
Over in Jersey now.
So I'm in North Bergen, Hudson County, next to Union City.
Mm-hmm.
I was, it was 1973. I was the first spick in the neighborhood. And
Did you hear what he said? First spick in the neighbor. You can't use that word anymore.
fuck them. The kids, it was weird. My mom passed, and I had a couple of Italian families that reached out. And this one particular, I was like a draft choice.
You seem like you're very fucking Italian.
Yes.
If you didn't tell me you were Cuban, I would think that you were Italian.
Yes. So they
You
took
have
me
your
in.
mannerisms, your spoketation is not spicatation.
No.
It's more Italianization.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Right?
they took me in, and man, I was lost. I was raised Catholic, very Catholic.
Yeah.
Santeria, very
You know,
Santeria.
Santerias,
Very
that's when you
Catholic.
fuck over somebody. They take some of your hair and they put a dead chicken.
I had to
cut 'em
go
up,
to a lady once because I thought I
and
had
they
a
go
spell. on it. She
like
did
that
it. She
shit.
blew a cigar on a coconut and then told me to go break it against a wall. And then I felt better after that.
You did?
Yeah. I had to wear white for a week.
She cleaned you up.
She cleaned me up.
Yeah.
I might have to go back. I think people
think
putting
you-
a Malouk on me.
Yeah, because you're hanging out with me, and since you've been hanging out, he wants to open a pizza place with me.
Good.
Yeah.
You need that. But
Yeah.
you were a cop.
I was a detective and a cop, and I worked all over the city, but mostly I was a long time. East Hall was one of the original decoys where I used to get mugged. I was mugged 500 times. I was stabbed, shot at. I was hospitalized 3 times, fractured skull. I was in during the 70s and half of the 80s when the shit was hitting the fan. We had like 2,000 murders and all that. And, up there in East Harlem, we had the gangs up there, the Savage Skulls, the Seven Immortals. These little scumbags used to extort the money from the store owners there. So my partner, Tom Carlo, a big Irishman. So we used to go after these gang members, and I used to wait in the back of the bodega or in the back of they used to have furniture stores along 116th Street. I'd wait for these little scumbags to come in there, and I would come there looking for to shake them down. I'd come out there. They knew who the fuck I was. And I used to beat the living shit out of them, leave them on the floor. And I didn't lock them up. And I told them the one guy was a guy named Blackwell, and he was the president of one of the gangs. I'll never forget. I took him out of he got married. They were all wearing these Kelly green tuxedos. So I asked them where the hell they were. So they were outside. I knew he was going to come out and do coke. He was out there blowing. So I had my partner. He goes, well, what are we doing here? I said, I'm locking his ass up. I had a 61. That's a complaint reporter. He raped a 12-year-old girl. I could have locked him up anytime. So I had to complain. I said, he's going down. He says, Bo, you're taking him on his wedding? I said, we're taking him on his way. I grabbed the motherfucker. I grabbed him. We shoot back to the 2-5 precinct. All of a sudden, the riot begins. All those people, 150 people come out with tuxedos that throwing bottles at the precinct. It was a riot situation. My captain said, Daniel, get in here. He goes, what'd you do? I said, lock this guy up, man. And he's standing there. He had a top hat. He was about 6'4", 6'5". I put the top hat on there. So he's in front of the station house, in front of the desk with his handcuffs on. Everybody's walking around bursting out laughing. I locked that mother up on. I said to the captain, I says, Captain, I said, he raped a 12-year-old girl. I was 61. Could complain with on his wedding deal. I said, well, did he tell the girl while he was raped what day it was? And, that was the deal. I went to the nun that got raped in East Harlem. They carved 27 crosses in the convent. My partner and I got those 2 scumbags. I broke one of the guy's jaws. They sued me for $40 million. I had a great career. You know what? I never killed nobody. Never killed anybody. I used to hang guys off roofs, put guys in the heads in toilet bowls that hadn't been flushed in 2 years. This shit used to go up to my arm. But, it was a way of interrogation. It was a different era, different time.
What happened to the police
today,
in this country?
They have been stripped of their ball bags, and you have a lot of females on there. And what's happening now is they have to wear cameras. Everything they do is on camera. They got people judging them, whatever they're doing. And because of a couple of questionable shootings, they're in a bad shape right now. The police don't want to get involved because they're afraid they're going to lose their job. And we see it every day. It's horrific. Like this thing that happened with this guy Gardner in Staten Island, terrible tragedy. The guy died. The guy was about 450 pounds, 6'2".
The black dude.
Yeah,
they
the
choked.
cop. Yeah, well, he didn't choke him. He got him in a headlock. I did that dozens of times. Nobody died. If he was choked to death, he couldn't be on the ground and say, I can't breathe. If you can't breathe, means you're still talking. You didn't get choked to death. You choke someone to death, you kill him. It came out that he had acute heart problems, asthma. It's a terrible tragedy. But to say that cop killed him, that's bullshit. And I've been saying it all. Now they came out with the evidence from the medical examiner that he was never choked to death. He died of acute heart problem. And when you have asthma, you close up. If you don't get oxygen or you don't get that inhaler, you could go into cardiac arrest. His daughter was 27 who died of a heart attack. He had heart problems in the family. So if he did 2 push-ups, he could have died. To blame the cop, and they all go against him. The job didn't stay behind him. And that's just a terrible tragedy that occurred there.
Well, but okay, I grew up on 88th Street.
Yeah.
You had what was called a beat cop.
Yeah,
That beat cop grew up in that neighborhood.
and knew the people.
And they trained him, and he got put back in his neighborhood.
Right.
So you knew Bo Dietl was going to walk by every hour and a
and
fucking
he knew
half.
the bad guys, the good guys.
Bo Dietl, if Bo Dietl caught me doing something, he'd smack me. He'd either say, the next time I'm taking you to your father, but there was no arrest, there was no paperwork, and you learned. I got in trouble 20 times, Bo, and I can look you in the eye and tell you, I never had a problem with a cop. Never called in all my podcasts, any of my conversations, you never heard me say the word pig. They have a job, and I had a job. But because of, first of all, the people that took me in, the first Italians,
Yeah.
were cops.
Yeah.
The guy that took me in was Carmine the Torch Balzano. He was a cop
Where you get the nickname the Torch?
because he would light things on fire for the town. So we were growing up and we'd ask him, "You got a match?" And he'd go, "Go fuck yourself, you cocksucker." But he left me money when he died. I mean,
Really?
because his younger son passed, and I fit right in.
Wow.
So I became one of them.
Well,
And
respect was something you grew up with, and I did too. I had a father from Germany and a mother from Sicily. So, I mean, when the only time I got taken home, no, I didn't get taken home. I was in the park, and my knees still suffer from it. I got hit with a nightstick by this Irish cop because we were sitting in the park after dark. That was all we were doing, nothing else. And I go home, my father says, "What happened to you?" "Nothing." "What happened to you?" I said, "Well, this cop," that's all I had to say.
all you had to
He
say.
beat the living shit out of me for the next hour. I learned one thing. I never tell my father if a cop hit me. And I tell you the truth, I had such respect for police officers, and today I do.
Today
and
I
it's
do
such
still.
a tough a job out there, what they face day in, day out. And like, we could see what's happened even in the last couple of days where people run into the danger and not run away. And these cops put their lives on the line. And I love cops, and I always will. And everywhere I go in this country, I'm recognized, for sticking up for the police officers there. You got some bad ones there, but the bad ones are so minimal compared to the ones that really want to do the job. And now the checks and balances that are there, everything they do is judged the next day. You got to understand something. When you react real quick, I didn't have cell phone cameras when I was a cop. Who was that with that trouble? I had a guy fire at me from here to a little past that wall over there 5 times with a revolver. He didn't have to shoot. He didn't squeeze. He pulled, and he misses me 5 times, and then he throws his gun down. And he goes, "You got me." I said, "Got you." I came out with my brass knuckles. I beat him into the ground, took him to the hospital. But, I mean, this was the way. I could have killed him. Could have shot him dead. I would have had another medal. I had all the medals in the world, but I never killed nobody. I could have killed 15 people. To me, I always depended on my physical strength. God made me very strong. I always did push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, squats. So I could fight any human being. I was not afraid of anybody either. I was never afraid of anybody. One person, my father. That's the only person I was afraid of in my whole life. But it was a different era. Now, so you grow up on the West Side. You go to New Jersey. How do you become a comic?
how do I become a comic? I always had a way of making things better immediately in my mind.
Yeah, no matter how the
When
situation.
I found my mother dead, I went downstairs and she was already on the floor. Her arm was purple. She had a heart attack. And I remember bending over.
How old was she?
48.
Oh my God!
And I remember bending over and saying to myself, "Fuck, she's never gonna find out I got left back."
You
It's
said
like
it
I
to your
left
mom.
back, and I
You
never
said it
told
to
her.
your mom.
I said it to myself, and I made myself laugh. But that wasn't it. I got locked up.
Yeah.
I was 25 years old. I got locked up a second. I pleaded out to second-degree burglary, but it was kidnapping. It was a drug rip.
Yeah.
And while I was in there, I was 20-something, and I had done
How'd
everything.
you wind up and get involved with that bullshit?
Drugs. It got deeper and
Coke
deeper.
or heroin or what?
Coke got, you're here. And I always tell people that we have to talk to the older people to tell them the history of Coke.
Oh yeah, we had on. We had on this show. Remarkable guy. What was his name?
Freeway Rick Ross. He was one of the biggest.
He
Tremendous.
told that story.
Tremendous.
And we had him on the show, and very enlightening, that whole thing with the Contras, where they were supplying the money to the Contras through sale of cocaine. And here's his story. I'll tell you a true story, and he's going to look at me, Carlo, with sideways. He learned so much through our podcast. Years ago in the 1970s, we used to go to a restaurant, and I'll never forget, I had this guy, Genovese, with me, and he came out with it looked like a sugar bowl. It was cocaine. I was a detective at the time. And they were doing cocaine around the table, snorting it like this. It wasn't categorized, I don't think, as a level, as like a heroin. It was another level. It only in the middle 70s did it become that level. Because cocaine was, years ago, they used to have Coca leaves they used to suck on. And Coca-Cola actually had cocaine in it, in the shit. So cocaine wasn't really, in the early 70s, wasn't looked upon as the bad drug at all. And I used to go to Studio 54. We used to go to Adam's Apple on 61st. Everybody was doing cocaine. But then all of a sudden, the DEA re-regulated as a Class A felony, whatever the hell it is. And then Coke was bad. but coke was always around. And then the people that got into coke in the beginning didn't realize now it's registered as a real problem. So you got involved with coke.
79.
Okay, that was after it became criminal. Then yeah, go
But
ahead.
I also remember going to my aunt and my godmother's on 148th across the street. That whole strip from Broadway to Amsterdam was weed. They used to call it the Master Mix. And I still remember going there in June of '85, going to my godmother's, crossing the street to go get weed, and then going, we got no weed on this block no more. It's just straight up crack. And
Well,
I was-
the '80s, that was the other scumbag I locked up, the Palm Sunday Massacre, 10 dead.
Oh, my
Puerto
God,
Ricans.
remember that shit?
No, I locked him up.
I still remember
10 dead. The guy's out now. The guy thinks.
But here's the thing,
I think he's
that-
the mayor of Baltimore. Or something.
when that first happened, they said that the family was involved with Colombian
Colombian drug-
cocaine dealers. 20 years later, they found out that it was the husband.
No, it wasn't 20 years. I locked him up.
What happened?
His name was Christopher Thomas. He was the story with that.
Hit me, 'cause-
when we first got the case, it was supposed to be Colombian hitmen and all that shit,
Right.
right? Next thing is you had all these different leads. So it turns out to be Christopher Thomas that I arrested. I was the arresting officer. Was locked up for the murder of the 10 people. What it was the father Bermudez was Puerto Rican. He was dealing drugs, so he was supplying this guy. So when Bermudez supplied him, he now cut him off. Told him you can't have him. Well, he owed him $7,000. So then Christopher Thomas breaks in. He knows everybody knows him, so he has to systematically kill everybody. The only one to survive was the little girl who was 18 months old. She hid under the bed. And the way we had to do it with this guy is we had to give him full immunity to the father to admit that he was doing all this cocaine. And then we were able to find a round in the burnt out apartment that coincided with the round that was found on 1080 Liberty Avenue in City Line. It was called City Line. That's where the murders occurred. And it took us about 2-3 months. I'll never forget in the beginning, I had this guy calling up the station house, meet me over there by Prospect Park, go to this phone booth, go to that. So he had me going all over. For a fucking week he had us going crazy. Finally, we set him up. We lay for him. We grab him. He was a Puerto Rican guy. We bring him in the station house. So now I got my Lieutenant Herbie Holman, big, heavy-set guy. And so this guy, well, you know all the information about who did the murder. Well, I don't really, No, you said you knew what happened. You saw. Well, I just wanted to be part of this. Like he wanted to inject himself into the largest mass murder. My lieutenant picked him up by his chin, broke him right through the plasterboard wall, boom, right through there. The guy actually was making up a story for a week, had us running around. So it turns out to be that Christopher Thomas was the one that owed the $7,000. Christopher Thomas was the one that murdered the 10 people, including 8 children under the age of 12, the Palm Sunday Massacre.
You remember the fucking spread in the Daily News? When you opened it up, they showed all the caskets.
Well,
It was fucking crazy.
he'll tell you in my office, I have the 8x10 pictures
you
of
go.
all the kids shot in the head dead. I keep them. I have a folder with them, and I'll never forget that. So I was off that day. I always called the station house. I was on a Plan B. You know, the Plan B is you're supposed to be somewhere where you ain't. You got it, wink,
Right.
wink. So I was on a Plan B, and I used to call up just in case the old lady called, make sure, I'm in the field. Bo, we got 2, 3, 4 dead on Liberty Avenue. I said, get out of here. So I come rushing in on my day off. I walked into the house, and I saw this sight of these kids all shot in the head. And I'll never forget. My lieutenant there said, Dieter, what are you doing here? I was in a homicide team at that point. I said, Lieutenant, I have all my murders. All my cases are closed. I said, I want to catch the scumbags that did this. So I got assigned to it. Eventually, I was named as one of the arresting officers. I'm actually walking this creep out on all the front pages, all the papers and newsreels. But it was something that we had to develop, physical evidence, witnesses we found. It was a great case. I didn't break it single-handedly. We had 200 of the best detectives in New York. We worked in a team, different avenues, and to make a long story short, the first time I see him, my partner was Jimmy McAlvin, black guy. And we go up, when we first had him as a suspect, we go to the Grand Concourse up in the Bronx, and I'll never forget. So we go to the girlfriend's house, his girlfriend that we found out, she lived there. So what do? We're from Brooklyn detectives. We're in the Bronx. This mass murder just occurred. So we bang on the door. The girl's behind the door. The girlfriend, she comes to the door. Yes. I said, the detectives from the 4-4. That was the 4-4 up the Bronx, but we weren't 7-5. For the 4-4, where's this Christopher Thomas? Well, he's not here. I says, you tell that scumbag, if he breaks into one more washing machine downstairs, I'm going to break his effing head. So we may believe we were investigating the change things in the washing machines downstairs to throw them off that we were from Brooklyn. So now we go out to the car. All of a sudden, this guy comes running out. I'll never forget, his eyes were rolling around, and he looks at me and Jimmy. He goes, I'm Christopher Thomas. He goes, I didn't break into any washing machines. I said, you stay away. I said, because I'll kick your ass if you come back there. I don't want another report. We drove away. I go to Jimmy McCalvin. That's our guy. That was the first time I had contact with him. Eventually, we developed. Now we're looking for him. When we finally got the right to arrest him, we got the witnesses, we got the physical evidence. Can't find him. We had him under surveillance. He slipped the surveillance. Some guys were surveilling him, and we can't find him. Because what I was going to do is have Bermudez, the father, show up and meet him by the Hunts Point Market. And I was going to lay in the back. I used to carry a double-barrel shotgun, and he used to break away. I had a slug and 12 gauge. I was going to lay in the back seat because I knew he was going to show up with a gun. And this is the first time in my life I was going to let him meet his master because I know he's come with a gun. I would have let him take it out, and I would have put this guy in half, and there would have been no trial. But we can't find him. So what happens? What happens? We're checking. He's in the Bronx house of detention for raping and sodomizing his mother. This is what we were dealing with. This is the nut job we were dealing with. And this guy's out on the street and I had to kill 10 people. He's out. The parole board in New York State let him out. He's out now. Can you ascertain what these kids will never see Christmas. These kids will never see how grow up. And this son of a bitch is out. And this is the parole board.
What was his original sentence?
What happened was the moron jury in Brooklyn, we went through the whole trial. They came back with 10 counts of manslaughter because they said, because he was high on crack cocaine, he didn't know what he was doing. So if you want to kill somebody, take a couple of puffs of some coke and then just tell them I was on cocaine and you won't be convicted of murder. That's exactly what they said.
Manslaughter is 6 to 8, 6 to 10.
But they did the concurrent.
Oh, they did concurrent.
Yeah, so in other words, I locked him up in 84. He just got out a year and a half ago.
He did some time.
Yeah, but time for killing 10 people, 8 kids, time, he should have been fried.
He should have been fried.
I would have
Or life sentence.
I would have flipped the switch.
And usually when you do a violent crime, it's tough to get on the parole board. Like the parole board will hold you for the whole fucking time.
Yeah, but
90% of
yeah,
your time.
but the thing is this. Where was the lives of these kids? I mean, a mad dog like that, what do you do with a mad dog? You keep feeding them? He's going to bite you back. Let's go more in your. Forget about my stupid.
No,
career.
I love all this cop stuff. This is my
but
world.
you want to know something? The thing is more interesting is you end up doing shows. Did you do stuff in Jersey before you ended up in L.A.?
Never even thought about it. I had
Did
friends.
you do anything in New York?
Nothing.
Because you know where I used to hang out and drink with this guy named Robin Williams.
At the Catch a Rising Star?
Yeah, with Rick Newman's joint.
Rick
I used to
Newman's
drink in
joint,
the
that's what I figured.
I was doing lines with him over the bar and cocaine back then. And, yeah, you know what? I didn't like cocaine because when I was with a chick, you know, I didn't like cocaine. Cocaine was cool, but then when you want to do the deed, got a little stoffatatious. You know
Eat
what that
some
means?
ass and pussy. Dead thing like a motherfucker. You gotta get on your You gotta get on your hands and knees.
So how
Eat
come
that
you
monkey and cappuccino it.
Cappuccino. You know what cappuccino is?
Yeah.
That's the foam that you get on the top, all right? Carlo, you're learning things, Carlo.
No, but you do it this way. That's cappuccino, and then that's tarantella when you rub it that way, like starting a fire, whatever the fuck.
Carlo, you're making But, yeah, but how come you never did any clubs in New York?
Because at that time, I was a fucking criminal.
This is in the 70s, but...
No, the 70s, I was still a kid. I left New York in 83. I owed a bunch of loan sharks money. I owed my godfather money. And he was really going to kill me. He was chasing me on a motorcycle. And then I had gone to Colorado, and I really liked it. I came back.
They didn't have pot back then.
Oh, yeah, they had everything back there. It
Yeah.
was tremendous. Aspen was tremendous. And I came back as a fucking moron. Why
Yeah.
would you come back?
Yeah.
And I come back, and cocaine is everywhere now. It's 84.
Yep.
And I ended up homeless, living in a fucking park in North Bergen in a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And then I went back to Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I vowed to clean up, and I didn't. And I ended up getting wanted in Boulder. I ended up in San Francisco. Then I ended up in Aspen. And then I got in trouble in Aspen. I didn't get caught, so I left. The DEA was on me in Aspen. And I left and went back to Boulder.
Just for the cocaine
Just
deal.
for the cocaine. And then I fucking went back to
How'd
it
you
in
get
Boulder.
out of that?
Out of what?
How'd you get it not getting locked up?
What happened was I was selling coke to a guy, and his wife was an accountant for the city of Aspen, and she got caught stealing. So part of her deal was to rat on drug dealers in the area. And Aspen is small. Everybody knows when the DEA comes in, they
Yeah.
all stay at the Red Roof Inn. So the fucking people at the counter will
You
let
should go
everybody know.
undercover, stay at the Red Roof so they watch you.
They would stay there and watch him. And at that time, there was a guy out there named Graybo
Yeah.
that they blew up with a car bomb.
Yeah.
And, you know, Aspen was fucking crazy. I came back here, got in trouble, went back to Colorado. At that time, I had done everything. I quit high school when I got into college. I got into CU Boulder. You know these fucking idiots that paid $500,000
Yeah,
for their
yeah.
kids? All they had to do was give them a Spanish last name.
They oughta
That's all they had to do. Marry a Mexican and fucking go to school for free. Go to University of Montana. And that's what I did. I went to Boulder where I had no Latinos. Remember the Boulder, Colorado football team?
Yeah.
They were always getting in trouble because they were black.
Yeah.
Minorities didn't want to go there. So I ended up in Boulder. No GED at the time.
You didn't even have a GED.
No
You
high
went to
school
college.
diploma. I just signed up. I lied. Started taking classes. They started giving me Pell Grants and Baba Boom and the
Wow.
Henry Moreno Scholarship Fund. Then when I transferred, like I took continuing ed. When I
You just
transferred,
said, look at, I'm a poor spick from New York.
oh, you should have
I
seen
need
me.
cash.
I was like a Japanese guy walking around with a camera, Mino Sabe. I didn't know nothing. I don't know dick. I'm like the chubby chicken, Man on Fire, when he came together. No sé, es que no sé. I didn't know nothing. They kept giving me money. And in the meantime, I tried to, just some guy got to me. He said he had 2 kilos of coke and he wanted to rob him from his roommate and sell him. And I ended up getting a machine gun and robbing him. Then the guy I robbed him with was the one that ratted me out.
Oh, he gave you
He
up.
flipped me.
So you did some real time.
I did. Well, this is what happened.
Robbery and gun.
They offered me 9 years, second-degree kidnapping. I pulled the Harvey Weinstein. I fired the attorney. I always knew. Listen, I grew up in the numbers game. It was so weird because in New Jersey, gambling is a felony, but in New York, it's a fucking ticket. So I grew up on 118th Street where the cops would call us and say, today's the day. Just have 2 or 3 grand there. We'd hang up the phone. The cops would come, arrest my mother, give us a ticket, take the money, go down to the station, and then that night my mom would meet him at a bar on Broadway.
Take care of him.
That the tail would move. I forget the name of it. Or they would meet at what was that Chinese place in the 80s that was tremendous? Henry Young.
No, Jimmy.
Jimmy with the fucking $36 egg roll.
That's on. No,
It's closed now. It's
yeah,
way
yeah. On
gone.
56th Street, it was.
Jimmy K.
No, Jimmy K was the place where we did the cocaine in. That Jimmy K. But he said Hung.
Yes, Billy Hung.
Billy Hung.
Billy Hung.
On
You needed
56th
a
Street.
yardstick
I
in
think
80.
Billy hung himself too. He died.
Really?
I don't know how he died. Maybe he hung himself. Bill hung. They had the
Hung.
best lobster egg rolls.
Lobster egg roll, $36.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Yeah. I used to
Back
go
then
there
it
with a
was
lot of
$36.
organized crime members. Best food. Always follow where the organized crime members go. They go for the best food, right?
And then they would go there and chop up the money. So if he would come and get me with $3 grand, I'd meet him at 8 and he'd give me 15 back. And then at court, he wouldn't show. So the ticket and the
Goes
court
away.
would get ripped up.
I have to separate myself. Never, ever was I involved with any corruption. Ever.
Okay,
in my
no,
whole
I'm just
career.
saying that.
No, I was like always the fucking cleaner than the Board of Health. That was one thing. Maybe real fast with the hands. Never took a penny. You know why? Because that way I grew up with my own man. I just, I went right through the NAP commission. So it was a time when they were all doing a lot of shit. honestly, and never ever took a penny, and I'm proud of it. And
Good
that,
for
that was
you,
the way.
man.
And that's when I respect cops, I respect it all the way. I don't like guys that was good for you, but to me, that cop's a scumbag for taking money from you or anybody, because I don't believe you're supposed to be beyond corruption. And that's always the way I look at it. And that's why we should pay them a lot more. We should be paying them $150,000 a year because they're
Easy.
supposed to be professionals.
Fucking easy.
So you shouldn't have to go through the gauntlet of making. You know what they pay them? They pay them like they have to go on
36 grand
Yeah,
to
they have to
start
go on
to take
food
bullets and
stamps
shit.
when they have to go on food stamps, and they wonder why cops become corrupt. Here it is, the reason right there. But go ahead. So you did your thing with them. Go ahead.
I did my thing with them, and then when I got locked up, I had done everything. I'd been a brick mason.
Yeah,
I'd
but
been
hold on a
chef.
second. We're talking about first. Your New York was the money with the cops back and forth.
Right.
Then you're out in Colorado. You get hit with the big one.
I got hit with the big one, but I grew up with an attorney named Sam DeLuca out of Jersey City. Mm-hmm. When you went to see Sam, it was plain and fucking simple.
How much cash you got?
You sat down. First of all, you had to buy Sam a few suits. So you sat down with Sam. I was
Yeah.
always the interpreter because those Cubans never hablo.
Yeah,
When
no
the cops
hablo.
come, they could fucking speak English. But when cops or attorneys come, they don't hablo. No hablo, no say. So I would always be the interpreter. My mother would play. I would pay hooky. My mother would pay me to play hooky to go with her friends to see Sam. And Sam would tell you exactly.
He handled the case in Colorado.
No, he handled. I learned
That's
from
where he
him.
learned all the tactics.
So he would say to you, "Okay, Bo, you got busted with 200,000. Da 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 da. What we're gonna do is this: for 300,000, I'll get you 6 months probation. For 200,000, you'll do a year, and for 100,000, you do 2 years. Get back to me in 3 weeks so I can make." that was how quick the fucking thing was. That was how quick it was. So when I got arrested, I did a month. I lowered the bail. These fucking school teachers, these parents that paid for their kids to go to school,
Yeah.
got $1 million bail. I kidnapped the guy, put him in the trunk. My bail was 50 G's. I waited a month. My
Who helped you out
father-in-law
with the
came
bail?
in. My father-in-law at the time, my future father-in-law, got it lowered from 50 to 3,000 cash bond. I got out. I got my life together a little bit. I got my GED. I did everything. So when I got put away, I would go to minimum security.
How much time did you get?
So they offered me 4 to 6 in the plea bargain. I got 200 fucking people to write letters from Colorado and New Jersey. So if you know if a judge has political aspirations, you write them letters, and every letter is 250 votes. That's how a judge looks at things. Okay, when you die, God forbid, the fucking funeral director will make 250 mass cards. So for every letter you write, that's 250 votes. So I sent letters from Jersey, from everybody. You know, in Jersey, you give somebody $20, they'll write a letter from superintendent at schools, mayors, governors, and I got 4 to 6, and the judge told me to file a reconsideration motion because I had never been in trouble before. I'd gotten arrested in New York, but nothing.
Nothing like
Brief possession of
Yeah.
robbery tools, shit like that. Nothing that stuck. So after 90 days, they reconsidered my sentence to 4-year community corrections.
What's that mean?
And I went to a halfway house.
Right away?
It took me. I did about 9 months.
Wow, that's
So
where
I
you
went
go.
through. I went through the fucking blood test, the psychological
Yeah.
test, and they determine where you're gonna go.
Well, you got lucky
They
there.
put me in Camp George West. I was the only one that had a driver's license, so I was allowed to bring the idiots' lunches. And then my girl would drop off blow or reefer on the side
Now,
of the
what
road.
year we talking about?
87, 88.
Okay.
So I got sentenced August 15th of 88, and I was walking the streets maybe March of 89, April of 89.
And then when did you end up in going to L.A.?
I was still in Boulder. I got married, became an estimator for a roofing company, was still doing cocaine, was still doing a couple kinky things, loan shark and that type of shit in the halfway house. I'd give you 55 for 80
Yeah.
to pay the rent on Thursday so you could. And then I got divorced. Right before I got separated, I had done everything, Bo. Boy, I had done everything I could do. I was a volunteer fireman. I mean, I really, really tried. You know, my mother really did a good job with me. I
Yeah,
was just
God bless
lost.
her.
You know, when somebody dies at that age,
Yeah.
you start questioning God.
Yeah, so
And
what'd
you
you
go,
think my mother?
fuck this motherfucker. What does he know? And I went off the reservation. And then when I got locked up, on Thursdays or Wednesdays, it was movie night. And it was those cheap Super 8 projectors,
Yeah.
and they would break.
Yeah.
You had to glue the film back together. The guys would say, Cuba,
Splicing.
go up
yeah.
there and talk to these motherfuckers, because I was the stock clerk in the kitchen, and I would always tell people what not to eat, don't do it. So they thought I was funny. So they would go up there and tell some stories, and I'd go up there and tell fucking stories, whatever.
So this is when you first really.
And I had no idea. I loved Richard Pryor and Andrew. Before I
Dice?
got locked up, I
Dice?
saw the Andrew special, and I was going to kill him.
I killed him.
I know you did in the pilot. I was ready to fucking kill him. Because he was saying what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I go, when I get out of this fucking hole, I'm going to look for this Andrew Dice fucking play and kill him. And I got out, and I remember I rented the room for New Year's at the halfway house, and I actually played Dice's tape for everybody. And I just kept thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I was a pussy. I didn't know where to start. And I was delivering, I was estimating one day, and I went to get breakfast for the guys, and I opened up the paper, and there was an article on how to get into stand-up comedy. And I took the class for 33
Actual class?
3 weeks, $36 at the University of Colorado. And I took the class, and it was 3 weeks, and the guy said to me, I think you're onto something, stick with it. So it took me another fucking 8 months. I was such a pussy to get on stage. And once I got on stage,
It just flowed.
it was the same thing that happens to heroin people.
It got addicted to the laughter.
When I walked off stage, I knew.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife, who we've been apart for 30 years, whatever, and I fucking want to stab her in the lung. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have gone on that stage. I got on the stage June 18th, 1991, and we were separated by October. Broke, nothing. I mean, she took the mustard. When they take your fucking mustard and your silverware, and I just got into it, Bo. I just put everything I had into it.
So I remember the old comedy store in L.A. I used to go out to L.A. all the time. So you were over there.
No, I started in Denver.
Oh, you started in
I started in Denver and then stayed in Denver for about 3 years. I came here for 9 months in '93.
But you didn't do none of the clubs.
I did the New York Comedy Club at that time. I was an open micer. I would do old Triple N.
Is that Caroline's?
No, fuck no, nothing. None of those big clubs would let me in. And one night I saw John Leguizamo.
Johnny, I love John.
At old Triple N, working out in front of 10 people like he was at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And I got it. And I went back to Boulder, and I just got into it, and I left Boulder in '95, ended up in Seattle.
And it's just funny. Your life to other people makes them laugh because of what you went through in your life. All you have to do is tell the truth of your life.
That's it.
And it's so interesting for people to listen because they can't even fathomize what the hell you lived through and what you went through in your life. And it becomes something where you have the attention of the audience. And I love when people appreciate. That's the heroin. When people listen to you and drink the Kool-Aid and appreciate it.
Well, I got a story to tell. I learned a lot, Bo.
Yeah.
I learned a lot, Bo. And, God took my family, but he put people in my life that were so fucking strong that I could not let down. I still talk to all my friends from North Bergen, Bo.
Wow.
I never forgot those.
Now, how many
motherfuckers.
kids you got?
I got one that will not talk to me.
How old?
She's 30.
Why won't she talk to you?
The mother.
Oh, the mother. They poison
And
them.
then I have a 6-year-old. That's my life.
It works. The shaft works.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
You sure it's yours?
Oh, yeah. She's fucking beautiful. Me and
Well,
my wife.
that's why I said you
we
should.
and my- me
If
and-
she's beautiful, that's why I question it.
My wife and I were together for 12 fucking years. Nothing happened.
Yeah.
And then
Then the mailman came by.
40
and-
fucking 9. She came in
the
and told me I
mailman
knocked her up. Yeah. Trust me, I thought the same thing because I was shooting duds for 12 years. I felt bad. We had got cats. We had fucking 6 cats. And now
Well, that's beautiful.
I
But
have her, and, it's a different fucking game. But that doesn't change the things I did. In fact, the other day she went to, who Bert Kreischer is?
no.
He's a comedian. Bert. My wife went over there with the kid because they have little girls, and Bert said to her, so what's your dad doing in New York? And she said, oh, he's doing some type of movie. And she goes, is he playing a gangster? And she's 6, and she goes, My dad used to be a bad guy, but once he had me, he decided to be a
Yeah,
good
but
guy.
I feel bad about the 30-year-old. There's no way to hook that back up. I mean,
Bo, I hired
it's-
an investigator
yeah,
about 6 years ago.
yeah.
I knew from day one, when we separated about 2 months later, it didn't take a genius to know what her plan was. And I fought it as much as I could. I fought it for 3 years. I put attorney bills on every credit card I had. And then one day, the guy she hooked up with called me a spick. And I smacked him. I go, that's it. I smacked him. And this is how funny life works. We ended up going in front of the judge I became for sentencing, had become a civil judge. So we went in front of him.
And where was this?
This is Boulder. And because of all the shit with the football players, there was a player named J.J. Flanagan. And one night a woman called him something a black kid said something to her, and he smacked the boyfriend. And they threw it out. So they made a law in the city of Boulder that you can't use a racial epitaph.
Otherwise you get
in
smacked.
the city of Boulder. You get smacked and you get away with it. You get a free one.
You get a free
here's
shot.
the guy in court with a black guy out to here. And Belapani, the judge, God bless his soul, said,
No,
we're
you
throwing
can't
it out
be,
because
you can't be saying
use...
that racial shit.
At this time, I had 2 felonies.
Yeah.
And they would throw me away for fucking life. And what
How
happened?
could that construe to a felony?
Because it was an assault. But here's the deal.
Yeah, open-handedly.
Let me tell you how fucking God works. And I'm not here preaching God or anything. When I got cut loose from prison, I wrote that judge a letter every month. I thanked him for what he did,
Wow.
and I gave him monthly reports, Bo.
How you doing?
This is what
You
I'm
were
doing.
right, Your Honor. You let me
You're
out.
right.
You gave me another
I
chance
don't
in
want
life.
every fucking
Because of
month.
you changed my life. I like that.
Every fucking month I wrote
like
this
that.
guy. When he died, I sent flowers, the whole fucking deal.
Well, he didn't know then. Once he's fucking
cop-
dead, but good as he.
I was a fucking, I was an animal, Bo, so I would have a job, but there was a Sears, and they had this display in front of the door of Bruce Springsteen's The Four Thing. And I would go in there every day, Bo, because I'm a New Yorker,
Yeah.
and old habits die hard. I'd buy a hat, and on the way out, I'd pick up 4 fucking albums and just walk out. It was bold. It was like a fucking candy store. And I would take them up to the hill and sell them for 50 apiece. Bruce, everybody loved Bruce Springsteen. Well, one day, Bo, now I had just gotten out for kidnapping. I just got out of the county. A month in kidnapping. I knew every cop. You know how New Yorkers are. Sal, the guy would let me use the phone long distance, the whole thing. I get arrested for shoplifting, and I go back, and the cops are all calling me Joey. Joey, what are you doing back? But on my paperwork, I used a different name. I used a friend of mine from Jersey's alias. They're fucking fingerprinting me. And I'm looking at the name on there, and they're talking to me, Joey, what's going on with you? You okay? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, please don't look at that fucking card. So what did I do, being the nice guy that I was? I went back to court under that name. I got sentenced under that name, and they fined me, and they made me do 60 hours community service.
Wow, you're
So when I went
lucky.
when I had met a bunch of guys that had AIDS, and I didn't like what was going on, and I went to volunteer at the AIDS place. I would paint the walls and take garbage out, but there was a cop there. And we became friendly. He was there on duty every day because they were saying things to people with AIDS. It was still the late 80s. I became friends with the guy. The guy's name was Durfee. I'll never forget him. 6'6", 400 pounds. We talk about pussy and eating. And when I smacked John, guess who showed up? Durfee.
He just happened to be the patrol officer.
Patrol cop. So he pulled me aside,
Wow.
and Durfee knew what was going on. I would bitch to him about what this woman was doing to me and this guy. So Durfee just gave me a ticket. This guy's holding a stake to his eye. There's blood coming out. But I also turned around, and my daughter was in the car. She was 4, and she didn't understand what was going on. I go, does she need this in her life? You know what I'm saying? This is how I was raised. People getting smacked, people getting shot.
Right.
So I got so much into comedy that I go, look, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to Seattle. I'll send child support. I'll keep in touch with her, and I'll come back once a year and see her. But as soon as I left, he got a job in England, and I kept getting paperwork in the mail to sign over the kids so I wouldn't have to pay child support, but I refused. I wanted her to keep my name.
Yeah.
and they forged the fucking paperwork when she was like 6. So now, Bo, I
In
call
her
you
mind,
Durfin.
she thinks you just abandoned her.
So what I'm going through right now is I could press charges on her. I could do 1,000 things. You know
Yeah.
what, Bo? Let me tell you how I look at it. I made my peace with it. I gave up a life to get a life. I was a piece of shit before then. I wasn't. If I tell you right now, looking you in as a man,
Yeah.
I wasn't ready to be a fucking dad. I was fighting for something that I couldn't cover the spread.
Yeah. Well, you know what I would recommend seriously, and I'm no fucking Dr. Phil. First of all, I think he's a jerk off. But what you do is one day you find, because you can locate.
I've done it all the time.
No, I'm talking about write a letter to her.
I've done it.
Yeah. And how you really feel what happened.
She's in
And
Aspen. She's a realtor.
She's in Aspen now?
Yeah, she's a realtor in
And
Aspen.
still has it even with your letter?
I called the mother. I apologized to the mother. I said, listen, it was 20 years ago. I have a new family.
I was
what
an
can
asshole
we do? You know, the
my whole
drugs.
life. I can't believe.
She's
I always believe in forgiving people.
So do I. I mean, look, I apologize. Look, the guy that I kidnapped
Yeah.
just came to my show in Tucson.
Really?
I hunted him down,
Really?
and I apologized to him. I made him call into the
Wow.
podcast.
That's cool.
He called into the podcast. We spoke the other day. We
Yeah.
speak once a month now.
Yeah. Well, God
I
bless you.
fucked up, Bo. And
Yeah, but people have to be forgiven.
the bigger the man, the bigger the mistake. You got to
And like
look
I
people
say,
in the eye.
compassion, toughness. Bo's a tough guy and all that, but I'm compassionate.
You have kids?
Yeah, I got 4 and I got a grandson.
God bless
But
you.
I'm telling you something, I had two different mothers of my children. I was only married once. I had 2 children, I had a wedlock, and they're my children. They have my names and all that, and I'm there for them. But, I fucked up myself in my own life, but I'm sorry. I'm the father. That's all you can do. Yeah, I'm not a perfect person, either are you, but that doesn't make us totally throw you into the garbage. I love my children, all of them. They all got my name, and I love them all the same. And that's the end of the story. So,
Well, I got a second chance, Bo.
yeah.
I got a
Let's
second
talk
chance.
about real fast is important, because then from the comedy, you went into the acting. What was the first things you did?
I wasn't getting recognized as a comic. I was long in the tooth.
Yeah.
I was dirty. And I knew that I had to go in through the back door.
Yeah.
So I shot. What made me move to Seattle was a guy from CBS saw me, flew me to LA, and I shot a show called Bronx County. It was going to be directed by the guy that played the doctor the last season of The Sopranos. He played the guy with Johnny Sack.
Okay.
Oh, that's a famous guy.
That's a
What's his
famous
name?
guy. CBS gave him $1 million, and I was going to play a Puerto Rican bartender in the Bronx, who all the cops come in, and I was going to be their sugar bear. Like, you come in and go, tell me what's going on.
Yeah.
Fucking Carlo's moving a pound of weed down the corner.
Sounds
they
like a
put-
good show. How
they
come
s-
that didn't take off?
It was supposed to be the answer for CBS to NYPD Blue at the time.
You had Howard Stringer running.
So you're like, what the fuck is going on? This is definitely going to go. It was a 1-hour drama, and I get the call in May. It didn't get picked up.
Wow.
So what am I going to do? If I go, what, am I going to go back to Jersey? What do I do? I said, let me bang that out here. The only thing
Now
I
you're
had,
in L.A.
I'm in L.A., and Mitzi Shore made me a regular.
Okay.
So I kept giving it every 6 months. 6 months. And I kept saying, if I fail, what I'll do is I'll move back to North Bergen, sell coke. But on the way to North Bergen, I'll stop in Boulder and kill the fuck and her husband right in bed. This is your thinking, Bo. And I just, every 6 months, I'd make a little advance. Every 6 months, I'd make a little advance. Even though I was fucked up on blow and everything, my work ethic and the hustle was tremendous. I got the longest yard because Adam told me no. And I went home and I go, wait a second. I was doing coke and I'm like, wait a second. So who's up for the role? Big Pussy, Vinny Pastore, great guy, and Tony Siragusa. I go, they're celebrities and they're great, but they're not a comedian. Nobody's done halftime at a Buffalo Sabre game and got shit thrown at them. I went to Play It Again Sports, and I got a little midget helmet and I was 418, 400. I got a size medium shirt on with my stomach hanging out, my tits hanging out. And I went to the University of Houston and had a guy throw passes to me.
Yeah.
And I put it all on tape. And I looked at the original longest yard, and I took the guy with the blue eyes. I was supposed to be the Italian guy.
Yeah.
And I just said his lines, and I sent the tape to Adam Sandler.
Wow.
And a week later, him and Chris Rock called me. We went to the Four Seasons. I had like $8 in my pocket. I kept saying, I hope these motherfuckers don't stick me with the tab. Because I had to park 3. I didn't even have enough for the valet parker.
Wow.
And the acting, from there, it's My Name is Earl, a bunch of shit. And I'm really lucky. I'm really fortunate that I've had the opportunity. I worked with James Coburn. I worked with a lot of guys, man. So
Yeah, the acting stuff is fun. A lot of people don't realize it's grueling too. I mean, if you're doing a real show, I mean, the hours are very long. People think it's all fun and games when they watch it on TV or in the movies. I mean, you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, makeup and all the bullshit, and you go to 11 o'clock at night, and it's not all glamorous. But that's what a great movie or TV series is about. A lot of hard work. And it's very interesting, that stuff. And when you started the church, what's happened now in 2012, what was that all about? This is when podcasts first started. You were an original one. Who was that guy? Joe Rogan.
2010, I got married and moved to the Valley. When I was 2006, I watched Ray, the movie Ray.
Yeah.
And at the end, they said Ray Charles did heroin until he was 61. And that fucked with me. I go, I'm on that same route. I'm going to end up that same guy.
But you were still doing shit in 10?
I was still doing shit in 2006. And then one night, this is a true story, I saw a biography on John Gotti.
Yeah.
And it said that he became the boss of the Gambinos at 44. And I go, you know what?
1985.
I'm 44 years old. I got to do something with my life. And it happened because I would never go to a rehab. I'm one of those guys that's got too much pride, no psychiatry.
I'll do it myself.
None of that shit. And for 6 months, I really tried. I really tried to clean up. And a situation happened where one of my cats got sick. And he died. But he had a brother. And my wife brought the brother up, and I fucking hated that motherfucker. His name was, I called him Superbad. He was a scumbag. He would take the cat that I was going to bring upstairs and make him climb trees and fight other cats and shit. And I would tell my wife, one of these days I'm going to kill that motherfucker, Superbad. So my wife told me Superbad's in the bathroom. He might die too.
You felt sorry for him.
And I had done coke that night in the house. I had my own personal thing. Never do coke in the house. I don't want to bring shit into the house. I would do it in the garage, run upstairs, jerk off, and take a shit, and then look out the window for 2 hours. I was one of those assholes. But that night, I actually brought the coke up, and I did it in my kitchen, and I went to the bathroom, and both cats were there. That morning, my wife got up, and she goes, Dimmy died. And I told her, just close the fucking door. And I thought it was because of me bringing the coke upstairs. And even though I hated Superbad,
You blamed yourself.
I got up, went into the bathroom. I got on my hands and knees, and I told God, if he saves Superbad, I'll never do cocaine again. Now, after 3 days, I'm in there putting the Maluka on him. Die, you motherfucker, die. But I got a movie. These people approached me for a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And before I left the movie, the week earlier, they said to me, can we talk to you about something on a personal level? If you take this movie, we don't want you to give us an answer today. We want you to think about it because we've heard about your drug problem. And I was so fucking ashamed that I went home, and that night, that weekend, the whole thing went down with the cat. I got on my hands and knees and said, God, if you fucking save this cat, I'll never do coke again. It's an old Cuban thing. It's
You
called
never
coming
did
home.
it again?
11 years later, and guess what? I still got Superbad.
Wow.
I still got that
Cat
fucking...
still alive. Was about 82?
He's 12 now. He's 12.
Wow.
He was like a kitten when we brought
Well,
him
you
upstairs.
know what? That's remarkable how something like that changes your whole...
My
you
whole
made a
life.
promise, and you were not a hypocrite. You promised. You stood by it. But, it's a time when we all have to realize, how long you just keep punching the clock. You gotta get beyond it, otherwise they'll take your ass down.
If you watch an episode, one of the last episodes I did of My Name is Earl, I'm in jail, and I'm talking about lighting a guy on fire.
Yeah.
And if you look at my tooth, it was already getting black from the drip.
Wow.
Like it was rotting this tooth out. And I'm like, can you imagine if I go toothless? And I'll never forget that I quit. I went to the dentist. He put some white shit in there, and I still got the fucking tooth.
I watched your Netflix thing, which was hilarious there, and And are you going to do more Netflix stuff too?
I don't know. Netflix is changing their thing. Amazon's doing specials. A lot of people are doing specials now. I got till June. I got a contract with them till June
Any
for
other
them to
movie?
decide.
Any other movie stuff in the works? Well, yeah, there's something you can't talk about.
Yeah, I got a couple things in the works.
Yeah.
I got a couple
Do
good
you have a good part in that thing that we can't talk about?
Yes, I got
Yeah.
a tremendous part. And I'm looking at another thing. I'm looking at a book by T.J. English. Do you know who T.J.
Oh yeah,
English is?
all about the
Brilliant.
the West Easy Road.
The West Easy.
Yeah, well, I was involved with them too.
Right, I know that.
I grew up with John Gotti Sr.
Did you?
As a kid, yeah, I knew him very well.
So you're from Queens originally?
Ozone Park.
No
Oh,
shit.
no. I walked that fine line, but I never, ever was involved with organized crime.
What made you become a cop, Bo? Coming from that
You wanted to
neighborhood?
say, I'll tell you very simple. I never wanted to be a fucking cop. I always worked since I was 8 years old because I had nothing. We had nothing in my family. If I didn't work, I used to sweep factories out in the afternoons, work as a busboy on the weekends, count them in, short order cook, griddle men, all that crap. I just worked. First job I had was delivering the Long Island Press. There was a newspaper. I was 8 years old. I used to deliver 76 papers in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning at 8 years old before I went to school because I used to make money. Everything I used to do is make money. Sweep out factories in the afternoon, make money. Because if I didn't make money, I had no money because we had nothing. And then all of a sudden, I just had this work ethics. No matter what I did, then when I went into high school, I was a national champion, physical fitness champion, pull-ups, push-ups. I used to do 40 pull-ups.
You got the
170
presidential award? You got the patch?
No, not just the president. We used to compete in Quantico, Virginia, the Marine Corps, and compete against every high school. 5 of us. I was national number one of every high school in America, 67, 68. Then I was the high bar, parallel bar. Everything was great, but I didn't study. I didn't do homework. So I wanted to go to college, but we couldn't afford college. Couldn't get a scholarship. So finally I says, fuck it, I'm not going to go to college. My family can't afford it. So Ralph Scopo, who was a wise guy, he was like a second father to me. He goes, Bo, what are you going to do with yourself? You're 17. I said, I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a gym teacher. That's all I wanted to be. Couldn't afford it. So Scopo says to me, you want to be a concrete laborer? You be a laborer, you work hard. I said, I like working hard. Go meet Sammy the Weasel on 33rd Street, Lexington Avenue. I go over there, I start work, and I was the best laborer. We would pass 3 by strong, four bags of concrete, 400 pounds on my shoulder I used to carry. And I used to, anything you want, but I worked hard. Then he goes, Bob, we're going to be building, there's a building going downtown called the World Trade Center. I could get you on as an iron worker on a permit. He says, you'll make a lot of money. 17 years old, brand new British Green Corvette. And I took the stupid cop test when I was 16 years old because I went to the corner and nobody was hanging out. I said, where the hell is everybody? Oh, they're taking the cop test. I said, who wants to be a friggin' cop? So I went to the high school. I went to the room. They gave me a paper. They showed me a clock. What time is it? And I mean, moron question. I went through it in about 10 minutes, and I did it, and I got 98.9 on the damn test. It was a moron test. Now I'm working in the World Trade Center. I had seen 4 guys die in construction. They didn't have ocean, and they didn't have Pacific OSHA or Atlantic OSHA. They had no OSHA. And guys who were 30 years old looked weathered. They looked like they were 50. And I'll never forget, we used to have 4 kangaroo cranes on the World Trade Center. And one of the things went loose, and the hero, me, Jerkoff, I climbed up to the top of the crane to loosen up the bolt to put the cable back on. And my hands were freezing. I was scared shit. And then finally they called me the 3rd time for the cops. And I says, I don't know if I want to be this construction worker the rest of my life. Let me try this cop shit. On the roof of the academy, 4 blocks away, I've seen a guy go over a fire escape. And he wasn't a fireman. I ran off the roof. I wasn't a cop yet. I chased this guy down. He burglarized the apartment. I grabbed him in a headlock, not a chokehold. He had 2 rings, and it was like an epiphany to help people. I hated bullies, and then I love being a cop. I love helping people, and that's the facts about me becoming a cop.
How long did you stay a cop?
I got hurt bad. I broke my leg and my ankle parachuting with some Saudi Arabian princes. It's a whole nother story, but I was only out for 15 years, and then they told me you'd have to come back on light duty. Now you play a game to get this 3/4 tax free. I had 30 line of duty injuries, fractured skulls, so I could have got the tax free. I didn't wait around. I put my papers. I said I'm out of here, and I only got half pay taxed, and that's what I got. Everybody thinks that I got 3/4 tax free. No, I didn't, because you would have to wait around and be on light duty for a year. And I said, I'm not doing this. If I can't be a real guy out there in the street, they wouldn't let me come back, because I had 40 civilian complaints against me. None of them founded, 40 of them. Hey, I made thousands of arrests. I was a street guy, and that's it. And people don't realize, people, when you're arresting them, they don't put their hands in back of them by the Marcus of Queensberry rules. You fight with these guys. I get them to get them. All my partners went home. I never killed anybody, but I did what I had to do to make me go home and my partners go home safely. And again, if a guy, I'll never forget, one guy had a knife, and then I ended up breaking his jaw, and then he raped somebody in the Tombs. I went down, I broke his nose. And they called me up. I was at the bar on the roof. He said, I broke his nose. He was a pretty good guy. He didn't give me up. And they investigated me breaking his nose with the brass knuckles. And next thing is, the next day, he was a stand-up guy. I brought him a veal cutlet Parmesan hero for Fellini's. And I gave him the fucking veal Parmesan. The only thing he couldn't chew, I had broken his jaw. But I was like I treated a man like a man. I got him right, I got him right. I didn't flake people. I didn't put things on him. I didn't take no money. I was trying to be the best cop I could. Depressed when I retired? Extreme. Nick Pileggi then put me on the cover of New York Magazine, how New York lost their top detectives. He did Goodfellas and Casino, and that the rest is history. So I guess it was the best break of my life, because I went on a plane after I locked up the Palm Sunday Massacre guy, Christopher Thomas. I was at the Helmsley Palace with the Arabs. I used to have a bodyguard company on the side. It's called Daylight, not Daylight, it was Moonlighting. And we weren't supposed to have a second job. I used to make a couple $100,000 a year going to Europe, arm wrestling. I used to be New York State arm wrestling champion. So I used to arm wrestle these bodyguards from Lebanon and rip their arms out, 350-pound guys. I was pretty good at it. So now the Arabs are there, and they saw me on TV, front page of all the papers, when I locked the scumbag up. They go, Bo, let's go to La Jolla, we'll have a party. We fly over in a private jet. They get about 20 off-duty actresses for the party. And the next thing is they're like, Bo, you're so brave. Did you ever jump out of a plane? So now, I never jumped out of a plane. They had 100 jumps each. They were in the military. They go, are you afraid? I said, I'm not afraid of nothing. I said, the only thing I'm ever afraid of is my dad. So I'm on a plane with a football helmet on DC-3, freaking doors open. I said, what the hell am I doing here? So I go out of the plane, I'm pulling everything. Everything was good. The chute came out. There was one thing they didn't teach me about how you land properly. I broke my leg and ankle in half, and that's how I had to retire from the police department. Otherwise, I would probably have been doing time in Attica, because they didn't have cell phone cameras. If they would have watched me on the cell phone, I'd be doing time in Attica probably today. But everything happens for a reason. I never killed anybody, so I could talk about it. Statute of limitations is over. And that's why I became a cop. And I really loved being a cop in those days. Today, I could not be a cop. And I think as you get older, you reflect back on a lot of things like you did about tough life and all that. And the problem today's generation, this me generation, people don't know how to work. They don't know how to work hard. They don't understand what it is hard work equals success. Life is not the friggin' lottery. These kids grow up because we've given them everything, and they think they get everything, which I'm guilty of it. Giving them every new car. You graduate high school, you get a new car. Yeah, my father didn't give me a beating that day, and when I graduated high school. So, you reflect as you get older. You look back, like you said, you look back at things you did wrong and things you did, and the few years that you have left, you try to make it the best life that you could have, and try to do the right thing with people. And that's what life's about. So I'm really, really honored that you came here finally, Joey. And I want you to come back, and I'd love to do your show anytime. And what is the stuff that we could get in contact with you? What are you on the social medias? What people want to go into your social media? Where do they go?
I go to Twitter, Mad Flavor, Instagram, Mad Flavor. I got a Facebook. I got no dates because I'm doing this movie, so I just want to focus on New York. I mean, it's great being back here, walking around and just breathing the air where it all started.
No, we do something on our podcast each week. We have Punk of the Week. Doesn't have to be a person. It could be a thing, something that bothers you. Could be something that bothered you last week. What is your punk? Something that really bothers you, or a person that really bothers you. What's your Punk of the Week?
Hummus.
Who?
Hummus.
Who the fuck is hummus?
Hummus, that shit people eat.
Oh, that's the peas crushed up.
Drives me fucking bananas.
You hate
I
hummus.
hate the smell of it.
Even if they put garlic in it or something.
Yeah, that's even more. Every time you eat hummus, you give ISIS $1. ISIS gets a fucking $1. Bo, they don't make people like you anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, do people ever question you? Like, question your story? I mean, you have.
Well,
I've listened to like 3 or 4 podcasts. Your stories are fucking.
I'm gonna be
endless.
very honest. And Carlo knows me a long time, and he come to work for me. He's my right hand, and he's with me in a lot of businesses too. I've been a very lucky guy. I'm a guy who's a high school general diploma guy. Got out. I became an line worker, construction worker, cop, and all. I was very fortunate. I've made not less than $100 million, $100 million since I retired, not less than that. And I've pissed away almost all of it. My life was living like I had some old ties and stuff. The guys in my old brand new Brioni ties, 300 a pop. There's
I never got any.
100
That's my
of them
punk
there.
of the week. They didn't give me
Ascot
the
Chang
ties.
shirts, $500. Here, John Loeb shoes. You ever see $15,000 shoes? I got a couple pairs of these. My point is, my life, I lived at high rev, private jets, boats. I don't have nothing compared to what I've earned. But yet, I looked upon my life and I said, I did it the way I wanted to do
all
it.
that matters.
Do I have regrets? Gambling. I used to gamble on football games on a weekend, $1 million. You know what $1 million is? If my mother ever knew that, this is what I had my own little vices. Football games. Then I'd go to casinos. I had $500,000 credit lines. Lose $800,000 on a weekend. I mean, but I had the money. I was making the money. But instead of me being smart and invested, I didn't. Do I have regrets? I guess so, but what am I do? Cry about it?
Same thing with
I'm
me.
around
No.
because there's a lot of my friends. My brother, this was my brother Alan. I just lost him. He was 18 months older than me. We lived together. I loved him more than he's my best friend. So I mean, he could saved all the money in the world. What good is it if you're not around? I'm still breathing. I'm still alive. I still care. Did I do screwed up things? I got married. I screwed over my first wife there. I was the bad side. But, hey, that was life. And I'm sorry for what I did if I ever hurt anybody. But one thing about it is I never would intentionally hurt anybody. And I was always there. If somebody was on the street and they got terrorized by someone, to this day, I step up and I stand up for people, and I always will. And when I ran for mayor, I went after this de Blasio, big bird piece of shit, and I called him on all the negative things about him. And he's a corrupt piece of shit. I tried. In one way, I'm glad I didn't win as mayor, because I would not be able to be the mayor of New York City dealing with these morons in city council and with all these corrupt bastards, because I would end up punching people out and I'd get locked up as mayor. I'd probably be the first mayor arrested for assaulting people. And I'm glad I'm not the mayor. I'm glad I'm Bo. I say what I want, and I care about people. Truly, Joe, you know?
I think I feel the same way as you.
You and I are very, very similar. Like I said, I didn't get locked up, but yet I lived a life on that full throttle, and I have no regrets at all. And, we really thank you for coming. What was your punk of the month? You didn't tell me your
My
punk.
punk of the week is all the people that had their hands in the tie box. They didn't leave nothing for me.
What happened is I cleaned out an old locker, not a locker, a thing the size of this room. And I had some old suits and ties, and they all went in there. I didn't really, like brand new Brioni ties, $300 a copy, hundreds of ties. They all guys walking in my office. I said, boy, that's a beautiful tie. Yeah, it's one of yours, Bo. It's one of yours, Bo. I didn't even realize that's how sick I was as far as life goes in
Now,
that.
one question. I didn't know you were best friends with Michael Dowd.
No, I didn't know Michael
teasing
Dowd.
you. I'm just teasing you.
And Michael Dowd wouldn't have been my best friend. He should still be in jail. Use your badge to sell drugs. And there was a DEA kid that was killed because of who he was protecting. See, I don't play. Homie don't play that game. Remember, Homie
But
don't
you won
play.
the 7.5, too.
No, I was
I thought
retired in 85.
No, I thought you said you were
I
working out of
was.
the 7.5.
Yeah, but he didn't come on till like 87.
Oh, 87.
85, I retired when I broke my my leg parachute with the towel heads, but that's where I retired at. I was in the homicide team. We used to have over 100 murders just in 7-5.
Just in 7-5,
It was really, really busy. But my punk a week is my Big Bird de Blasio. You pick up the paper, the Department of Investigation just found out he's taking money from developers still. He's the most corrupt piece of garbage, and his ugly wife, who is no Haley Berry, looks like a cleaning woman, his wife, that I despise. She took $800 million for mental health, and she don't know what she did with it. I challenge her. That's my punk of the week. Mrs. de Blasio, Charlene, whatever you want to call her. She took $800 million, and you ask her what you do with it for mental health. Oh, well, you have different levels, different categories. That's my punk of the week.
All right, there you have it. All right, thanks everyone for listening. Thank you to Joey Diaz.
you for having
this
me.
is
It was
really
a
a
real
tremendous
fucking pleasure.
podcast. Thank you for being here. Subscribe to our show. Give us a great rating. Tell all your friends. You can follow us on social media. We're at One Tough Podcast on Twitter. Bo is at Bo Dietl on Twitter and at The Real Bo Dietl on Instagram. I'm CJ Coutinho on all platforms. Tune in next week. We got a lot of guests lined up for May. And send us any emails, questions, comments, or anything. OneToughPodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next time.
Bye. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.